I stood before Jesus and asked him directly, "If you are God, then why do you pray? Who are you praying to?" He looked at me and responded in a way that left me no longer the same. If Jesus is God, then who was he talking to when he prayed? That question used to make me laugh, partly because I saw it as a classic paradox of religion, and partly because I never imagined I'd get the chance to ask him. But then I died. Not the poetic kind of death, lying on a hospital bed surrounded by candles and blessings. I died at 17, on a cold October morning along a quiet running trail, my shoes still damped with dry grass. No one was with me, no one knew, and no one would believe what I'm about to say. Before I died, I didn't believe in prayer. I had seen my father kneeling in his room, whispering like he was talking to the wall. I used to think he was just comforting himself, not speaking to anyone real. I used to arrogantly believe that if God existed, he should come find me, not the other way around. But in the moment my body collapsed, when my breath was crushed as if by an invisible hand squeezing my chest, and my awareness was pulled into a dark and endless space, I didn't call out for my mother. I didn't think of anyone else. I whispered just one thing: "God, if you are real, please don't leave me." And he didn't. I met Jesus. Not in paintings, not in books, not through sermons in a church. I met him with my soul. And I asked him, right amid that blinding light, so brilliant it felt like I was dissolving into it. I asked the question I once thought was nothing more than a joke of logic. If you are God, then why do you pray to yourself? He didn't get angry. He didn't rebuke me. He simply smiled, as if I had touched a mystery that few ever dared to reach. But he didn't answer right away. He led me. He showed me something that, if you stay with me to the end, might just change the way you see everything about yourself. Have you ever doubted your faith? Ever felt like prayer was pointless? Then don't leave yet. What comes next is the place where I died and where I truly began to live. My name is Caleb Hayes. I'm not the kind of person you'd expect to have a spiritual experience. I didn't wear a cross, didn't read the Bible at night, and I used to laugh at my classmates who whispered amen before every math test. I was just a regular high school kid living in Oregon. My life revolved around grades, the gym, and early morning runs on the weekends. To me, God was something people clung to when they were weak, and prayer was just a way to lull oneself into feeling safe in a world you couldn't control. That morning was just like any other. The air was crisp, the sky was gray, and the park trail was filled with that familiar scent of damp leaves you only get in the fall up north. I popped in my earbuds, hit play on my Hustle Vibes playlist, and started my usual run through the park trail. Everything felt right, steady, peaceful, almost meditative. I remember thinking, this might be my best run yet. What I didn't know was that it would also be my last, at least in the body I had known. About a mile and a half in, the pain hit. It wasn't muscle soreness or a cramp. It was sharp, sudden, and cold, like someone drove a blunt fist into the center of my chest. I staggered, clutching my chest, gasping like a handsaw cutting through steel. There was no one around, no footsteps, no honking cars, just me and the pain, ripping through every beat of my heart. I tried to keep going, to push through it like I'd always done, but every step felt like landing on broken glass. Just before I collapsed, I looked up and saw a bird glide silently across the dull sky. Then, everything went black. I couldn't hear the music anymore. I couldn't feel the ground beneath me. I didn't see a light. There was only silence. No color, no shape, no time. People say that when you die, your life flashes before your eyes like a movie played in reverse. But for me, there was no movie. There was only a question, echoing through the emptiness like a voice from the bottom of a canyon. Is this the end? But it wasn't. That was just the beginning. What happened next was nothing like anything science had ever prepared me for. I woke up, but not inside my body. I was floating, light as smoke, as if gravity had finally let me go. Below me was a scene I could hardly believe. A teenage boy lay motionless on a bed of fallen leaves. Gray hoodie, running shoes, earbuds scattered on the ground. It was me, but it didn't feel like looking into a mirror. There was no instinctive panic, no shock. I just stared, calm, as if watching a stranger who had collapsed. There was no pain, no fear, no cry for help. Just one thing, silence. Not an eerie silence, but a stillness that felt like it was waiting. Then, without warning, I was pulled away. Not by wind, not by a hand, but by an invisible force, gentle yet irresistible. I drifted upward, drawn through a spiraling corridor of radiant light, glowing and soft like silk. Each thread of light that touched me carried a sensation I had no words for, like love, like memory, like a call from a place I had never been, but somehow already knew. When I emerged from that tunnel, I saw a landscape no human language could ever fully describe. A meadow of wildflowers stretched endlessly in every direction. Each petal shimmered like it had been woven from crystal, reflecting a light that didn't come from the sun. Above me, the sky looked like liquid gold. It wasn't blinding, it was gentle, enfolding everything in a steady, peaceful breath. I stood there, or more accurately, I hovered, because I no longer felt the weight of a body. Everything was strangely alive. The wind didn't just brush past my hair, it seemed to weave through my memories. The light didn't just illuminate the scene, it pierced straight into my soul. And I realized this place didn't belong to the world I came from. This was the realm of absolute truth. No pretending, no hiding. Just the raw, unfiltered essence of who you truly are, fully seen and fully held. And then they appeared. No one called my name, no introductions were needed, but I knew exactly who they were. My great-grandfather was someone I had never met in life. My great-grandmother, whose face I only knew from a faded photo above the fireplace at my grandparents' house. They didn't speak, but their eyes, the glow around them, everything radiated something I had longed for throughout my childhood. You don't have to hold it together anymore. You are loved. You are free. You are home. I broke down in tears, not from fear, but because for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to be strong. I was simply me, and that was enough. But then the light in the distance began to move. Something or someone was approaching. And this light was unlike any other. It was stronger, deeper, softer, and yet carried a power that made me instinctively bow my head. This light didn't burn, but it revealed every hidden crack inside me. It didn't illuminate my skin, it peeled back the layers of my soul. I couldn't see his face. I didn't need to. Just his presence told me this was Jesus. Not the Jesus from stained glass windows or children's Bibles. Not with long brown hair. Not in a flowing white robe. Not with a glowing halo. Just a presence, merciful yet majestic, vast and full, filling the space and seeping into every corner of my being. And when he looked at me, I knew I was being seen completely. No mask, no words to hide behind. He knew everything and still did not turn away. For the first time in my life, I felt fully understood. No explanations needed, no effort to perform. I was just me, with all my flaws, my doubts, my wounds, and all of it was embraced without needing to be fixed right away. All I had to do was be present. He didn't speak with words, but every feeling from him poured into me like a current of warmth. And then, suddenly, he asked, not with a voice, but straight into my consciousness, "What are you most afraid of, Caleb?" I wanted to say I was afraid of death, of losing my family, of not being loved, but none of those were true. Standing before him, I couldn't lie. I looked straight into that light and answered with a truth I had never spoken out loud. "I'm afraid of being forgotten." He was silent for a moment. But it wasn't a cold silence. It was a silence that felt like being wrapped in an embrace, one that held all the fear trembling inside my heart. Then I asked him something, not because I was brave, but because something in his presence made it impossible not to. Maybe it was a question I had carried since childhood, quietly, never daring to say it aloud. But here, in this light, I had nothing left to hide. I looked at him and asked, "If you are God, why do you pray to God?" The question echoed in that sacred space like a small blade tapping the heart of the universe. There was no anger, no sermon, just a look so tender it hurt, as if he had been waiting for me to ask that very question for a long, long time. He didn't answer, not because there wasn't one, but because I wasn't ready to hear it yet. Instead, he extended his hand. Or rather, a stream of light flowed toward me like water, inviting me in. And without speaking, he said, "Let me show you." I used to think I only needed an answer, but I was about to learn that before I could understand the truth, I had to face everything I had ever believed was right. He didn't take my hand, but as I stepped into that light, I knew I wasn't walking alone. He led me through places that exist on no map, no cities, no names, only feelings, memories, and fragments of a soul that had never fully healed. I saw myself at 7 years old, curled up behind the sofa while my parents argued. My father is shouting, my mother is crying, and me whispering a prayer. My very first prayer, one no one knew I had ever said. When I asked Jesus why he showed me that moment, he didn't answer. He simply let me hear the sound of my heart back then. It wasn't beating from fear. It was beating from hope. Small and trembling, but it was faith. Then I saw myself at 13, mocking a classmate who had just lost someone, saying, "Prayer is for the weak." I saw his red, watery eyes. I saw the smug look on my face as I turned away. But inside, there was a quiet guilt I couldn't name. For the first time, I understood. Sometimes we say things not because we believe them, but because we're afraid to believe and not be answered. Jesus didn't rebuke me. He just showed me. Faith doesn't die when it's rejected. It only sleeps, waiting for a voice honest enough to wake it. Then I was brought to the moment I knelt beside my own lifeless body, the one lying on that trail where my heart had stopped. I saw my mother in the hospital, pale, trembling, placing her hand over mine without knowing I was already gone. I saw my father out in the hallway, gripping a tiny cross he kept hidden in his wallet, too ashamed for me to know he still believed. I saw silent prayers, words no one heard, words no one answered, but they were never lost. They hovered like soft light, weaving through each other, wrapping around me like ribbons from the fabric of the universe. And Jesus said, "Prayer isn't for being heard. It's for hearing yourself." I wept. I had never cried like that before, not from pain, but because every wall I'd ever built was crumbling. The questions, the doubt, the anger toward God, toward my father, even toward myself. It was all being washed away in that light. I cried out into the silence, "Then who are you praying to? You're God. Why would you need anyone to answer?" And Jesus looked at me, not with blinding light, not with divine thunder, just a gaze, bare, gentle, and more powerful than any sermon I had ever heard. He said, "I don't pray because I need to. I pray because you need to see me do it." I froze. Then he continued, "Because if I, the one they call God, can kneel, can whisper, can place my trust in the Father, then so can you. Not because you are weak, but because you are human." I collapsed, not out of shame, but because for the first time I saw truth in my weakness. Prayer wasn't a sign of defeat. It was a declaration that I am not alone. I had thought the answer would come in a clever explanation,
But the real power of prayer wasn't in what we say out loud. It was in what it awakens inside of us. After he said that, I stayed silent for a long time. Not because I didn't understand, but because I understood too deeply. So deeply that every layer of logic I had built to protect myself couldn't hold anymore. All the arguments I used to throw against faith, like weapons, like shields, now felt like the faint whispers of a frightened child trying to hide the fear of being unloved. I sat there, or rather, existed there, inside a light that was both soft as silk and sharp as a blade. There was no time, no edge, just me, him, and a truth that had quietly waited inside me for years. I had never truly stopped believing. I was just afraid to believe and not be heard.
Jesus didn't lecture me. He didn't need to say more. Instead, he took me through a space I cannot describe with form or structure, just a gentle swirl of energy, like mist. Within it, I saw forgotten prayers. From a father losing his job, from a mother about to lose her child, from a 10-year-old girl crying into her pillow because she was being bullied and had no one to tell but God. These prayers appeared like little flickering lights, fragile but never extinguished. I reached out and touched one. A warmth so deep it brought tears to my eyes spread through my hand. I knew instantly it was my first prayer as a child. Please don't let Mom and Dad get divorced. It hadn't changed what happened, but it had preserved a part of me, the part that still wanted to believe someone out there was listening. Jesus said, "No prayer is meaningless. No faith is weak. Only hearts too afraid to open again." I asked, but what about those who prayed and still lost everything? Doesn't that mean prayer doesn't work? He looked at me with a gaze I had never seen in another soul, part teacher, part father, part friend who had known everything about me long before I was born. He answered, "I did not come to erase every loss. I came so you would never have to walk through loss alone." Then he added, "Prayer is not to change the will of God. It is to change you, to keep your heart soft enough not to shatter, humble enough to keep loving even after betrayal, peaceful enough to forgive even when you were never asked to." I broke down in tears again, but this time not out of weakness. It was because I felt myself melting, being cleansed, being pieced back together. Every shard of me, every harsh word I had ever thrown like a knife, every time I had rejected a gesture of comfort, every moment I walked past someone who just needed a hand to hold, it was all being forgiven. No one condemned me. No one demanded repentance. There was only truth, clear as the sun after a fog, that I had never been abandoned, even though I had long abandoned faith. Jesus looked at me one last time, as if time was speeding up or the place I stood was about to close. He didn't say goodbye, just one sentence. "Now you've seen me pray, so live as if someone is always listening, because someone always is." I knew it was time to go. I didn't ask why. I didn't beg to stay. For the first time in my life, I didn't need to run anymore. I had been given back to myself. When I opened my eyes again, I was no longer in heaven, but I carried something with me that I had never had in all 17 years of my life, a reason to live, and a promise I would never forget. And the first thing I did when I returned was something that would forever change the relationship between me and my father. I opened my eyes, the cold ceiling light, the beeping of the heart monitor, the sharp smell of disinfectant. I wasn't there anymore. I was back, in this body, in this world. But something deep inside me had changed forever. Beside the bed, my mother was slumped forward, crying. Her shoulders trembled, and both her hands clutched mine like she was holding on to something more fragile than a miracle. I turned my head slowly. My chest still ached, like my whole body was relearning how to exist. I whispered, unsure if it was because my heart was weak or because my throat could no longer bear the weight of old words. "I'm here, Mom." She lifted her head, stunned, eyes filled with tears that couldn't fall fast enough because she was looking at the impossible. And I saw it clearer than ever. Not everyone gets the chance to return, and if I had been given that chance, I would have to live differently. A few hours later, my father entered the room. He stood there in silence, hands trembling as he held the small cross necklace I had once asked him not to wear around my friends. I reached out. He hesitated, then took my hand. No words were exchanged. We just held hands. And for the first time in my life, I saw him as fragile as a child, and somehow that made me love him more than ever. I didn't tell them everything I had seen, not because I was afraid they wouldn't believe me, but because some truths are best revealed not in stories, but in how you live after. When people look at you and sense something greater than anything you could explain, transformation. I started to pray, not loudly, not with formality, just quietly. Each morning, before I got out of bed, I'd say something real to the one I knew was listening, not because he needed it, but because I did. I forgave people who had hurt me, not because they deserved it, but because I didn't want to carry those wounds anymore. I learned to love rightly, deeply, even those who didn't love me back, because I had been that person once too, and I was still loved. And now I want to ask you, not as someone who once died, but as someone who has finally started to live, when was the last time you prayed? When was the last time you said something truly honest from your heart? Do you believe that even the smallest whisper could reach a God who's been waiting a long time to hear from you? I used to think strength meant needing no one, but now I know real strength is daring to believe that even when you feel most invisible, you are still heard, still seen, and still loved. My name is Caleb Hayes. I died. I met Jesus, and I asked him the question no one dares to ask, and the answer saved my life.